Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and as you can see, I've got the tie on, we've got the Top Hollow music playing on in the background, and you know what that all means. It is time for some more Pokemon Sleep news. Now, this was just kind of randomly dropped on us. Now, we all kind of were expecting probably there to be some sort of maintenance coming soon, because they gotta do some sort of preparations for the new event that they announced. You know, that's the first thing that they talk about, preparation for the new event week, packed portions, cooking week. So, we have that's happening. It's happening in a couple days here, the night of the 4th into the 5th. So, something to just note, guess feed your Pokemon, account for it, plan around it. But yeah, 2.9.0. What is going on with this? Well, this is some sort of crazy stuff. The update itself actually isn't that insane, but they've hidden some more details in this update, and I feel like there's a reason for that. Now, we'll get to that when we get to that part of the update, but first, let's cover what's actually happening in the update. So, like I said, preparation for the cooking week, no surprise there. Adjustments to Pokemon Sleep style appearance rates. So, 3-star styles that can be seen during sleep research in all areas will be a little more likely to appear. So, that just means a little bit more Dream Shards for all of us, a little bit more research XP. Because 3-star styles are a bit more rare, they get a bit more of those resources. That means we just get a little bit more of that. So that is pretty nice to see. More candies, more Dream Shards for all of us, more Research XP. As they make adjustments like that, it's beneficial for all players. The game's run into a lot of stagnation issues, I feel. A lot of players are feeling somewhat burnt out. I've seen a huge burnout problem on the subreddit. Many people complaining, not necessarily complaining, but dreading just how long things are taking and the fact that it's felt like nothing new's really been announced. And I think a part of that is because it's a long grind to level up your Pokemon to level 60 and beyond. And this certainly is one small way they're helping assist with that by giving us more Research XP and Dream Shards through more 3-star styles. Additionally, 3-star styles can now be more 3-star styles are going to be able to be discovered upon Greengrass. Now, I think a big reasoning for this is something that we'll get to at the end of the video, but this feels a little bit off because that's always kind of been the unique thing about Greengrass is it's like there are no 3-star styles there. That's why you get out, go explore, go adventure, because then not only can you actually particularly hunt things, but also you can find 3-star styles. That's where they exist. You'll get more Dream Shards outside of Greengrass, but I don't think they'll be bringing over too many, and I think this is just primarily to make room for a future update. Now, adjustments to carry limits of evolved Pokemon that you befriend. This is very interesting. I never thought we'd see this in the game. I thought it was always going to just be a permanent downside that if you caught a Pokemon at full evolution, it would just have a smaller inventory. Just fixed. No way to change that. As like a permanent downgrade for the fact that you didn't have to take the time to evolve it. You didn't have to befriend it in that way. But they're actually changing it so that now it's just like every Raticate you befriend just has 21 inventory. So the 21 may as well just be its base inventory. The same thing can be true about every other evolved Pokemon now, because now I don't think there's any way that you could actually get the 16 base inventory that Raticate technically has. So there's probably going to be a rework in like Rainonex to show that all Raticates have 21 inventory now, because it doesn't matter whether you catch it as a Rattata and then evolve it. Now it's just the base rate. This effectively means that there is no harm in catching fully evolved ingredient specialists anymore. In fact, it's just as reasonable to catch a fully evolved ingredient specialist as a fully evolved berry specialist. Aside from, you're going to be splitting your cost for badges, so that is something to consider. But realistically, ingredient specialists don't care that much about badges, so they're probably actually the best Pokemon to catch now if you're going to catch something fully evolved. And then they're shortening the frequency of all three, Butterfree, Dodrio, Altaria. I think this is reasonable. Butterfree has never been that great, and Altaria is also a pretty bad Pokemon in this game as well. They've all been... They don't have islands, those two in particular, which does bring about a question of, okay, is this basically confirming for us they're trying to make these Pokemon better so we have something for the next island? The theoretical Poison, Bug, Dragonberry Island, making Altaria and Butterfree just a little bit better. feel a little sad to not see Arbok mentioned here, so then there are some questions. I'm not saying this is fact, this is very heavy speculation, but then there's a question of why wasn't Arbok mentioned here, because Arbok is also behind the curve. In fact, Butterfree has been kind of, I think it outproduces Arbok right now. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But yeah, Arbok, not a great Pokemon. It's not getting buffed, but the other two that theoretically have the favored berry there are getting boosts. I do like seeing this, though, because for a while, Altaria has been pretty much outclassed by Dragonite, even for berry productivity. Maybe not berry productivity directly, but total strength, which is really the metric you're looking for with a berry specialist for a while. So I do like seeing Altaria getting a buff, Butterfree getting a buff they need. And Dodrio is just very interesting because it's kind of been this weird, unmentioned Pokemon in this game. I feel like everyone forgets Dodrio exists. It's so outclassed by Feraligatr. Clefable also kind of gets forgotten about, but Dodrio especially, I feel like people just kind of forget it exists because it's a berry specialist. It's only applicable at the first island after Greengrass is where it has favored berry, and it's not really strong enough to hold up as a generalist outside of there. So I wonder if this is kind of to bring it up closer to Feraligatr's strength. Now, something very interesting about this, if you ever watched my video talking about the impact of levels, you'll know that Dodrio actually does slightly outperform Feraligatr at Cyan Beach while sneaky snacking at a certain earlier level because of the way that berry strength, the curve, is calculated. This means that that difference is going to be even more significant, so Dodrio is actually going to be a really good option for new players after this update. It was already a pretty solid option for Cyan Beach, but now it's going to be an even better option for Cyan Beach early game. Because of the way that the curve is calculated. Now, a few other minor things, just some quality of life things. You can now see if you tap a dish that you don't have the ingredients for, it tells you what ingredients you're currently holding. Just probably to make it easier to tell what you can and cannot make and how much more you need. Some checks adjusted or unified. I feel like that's all. These last two announcements are always in these update notes. And then adjustments made to the number of sleep styles, Snorlax ratings displays. Sleep styles number displays will now exclude sleep styles that only appear when Pokemon Incense is used. I'm not really sure. Oh, okay. Are there's still... I wasn't aware that there were even still any sleep styles that only cause them to appear when Incense is used. So maybe this is just for the islands. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments what this is about if you know, but it's another thing. Honestly, none of us are probably going to notice that they make this change. I don't even know what the change means. So, but the big thing that everybody's talking about, Expert Mode. What is Expert Mode? Well, for the longest time, if you go way back to like October, I think, October, November, December of last year, 2024, more than 6 months ago, we're in the 6th month of the year, it was in the end of last year, they announced a challenging new mode in which certain Pokemon would be, or certain kinds of Pokemon would get the chance to shine. And the big question was, what the heck does that mean? What are they doing? And they just announced that they're introducing a new challenging game mode around the end of July or August, early August. This is certainly the challenge mode they are referencing. Now, something very interesting, end of July, early August, that is right around the 2-year anniversary. So this is pretty much coinciding with what's probably going to be a very big event. The anniversary last year was a 2-week-long event. I expect it'll probably be the same. And last year they made a bunch of announcements throughout the course of the anniversary event. They're probably going to do the same thing. If I had to guess, this is probably going to be right after the event is over, and they'll give us more of a description during the anniversary of what it's actually going to look like, because right now they've kept some things intentionally vague, but I think they're giving us this announcement to give us something to be excited for, to plan for, and there are some things that we can already start doing to be planning, knowing that this is coming, despite the fact that we don't have all the details yet. So in the new mode, there will be ways for all kinds of helper Pokemon to contribute. It'll be more difficult to raise Snorlax, but you'll be able to get more rewards than ever before. Now, this could be some groundbreaking stuff in terms of Dream Shard farming. It actually could decrease the viability of Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon, unfortunately, because if now you can get more rewards through more Snorlax strength, then Dream Shard Magnet is less necessary for the sake of farming shards, because you can just get it through this challenge mode, or expert mode. Although, you might not be able to play expert mode every week because there is an expense for it, so maybe there's still something to using Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon, and we don't know what the numbers actually look like, so only time will tell on that. But prepare for expert mode by befriending and raising many different kinds of Pokemon. This is very intriguing, because the way that it works is Snorlax's favorite berries for a week will be divided into one main favorite and two sub-favorite berries. Pokemon that gather Snorlax's main favorite berry receive various helping-related bonuses. We have no clue what those helping-related bonuses are. If I had to guess, it's probably just like 1 plus, like, 0.25 times skill tree rate, or maybe +1 ingredient per ingredient proc. It's probably going to be something along those lines, maybe lesser, maybe more. But we're only going to see that on its main favorite berry. And then its two sub-favorites just are regular. But Pokemon that don't have any of the weekly favorite berries receive penalties. So you're penalized for not using the favorite berries. This puts a heavy restriction on your team building, and do note that they receive penalties. It doesn't say that you're not allowed to use them. I think there will still be usage for off-type Pokemon, even during these expert mode weeks, if they really fill a role that you need. Now, this is just me theorizing, because we don't know what it looks like yet. But theoretically, let's say Tyranitar, best ginger farmer in the game. If you need ginger, it's so insanely good at ginger, it's probably going to fulfill your needs even off-type, no matter what the penalty is. Like I said, I could be wrong. The penalty could be so severe that it still doesn't do well. But it's possible that there might be some opportunities for off-type Pokemon even without it. But it still is probably a good idea to try and gather up many different kinds of Pokemon for each role for the just different types in the game. Because now you're only going to really have 3 types that are going to be viable on any given week while you're using Expert Mode. Also note, you can only use Expert Mode once you've reached Master 18 on Greengrass. And notably, as of right now, it will be available to play on Greengrass Isle. It doesn't say it will only be available to play on Greengrass Isle, so they may add this to the other islands eventually. It might look a little bit different, though, if it's at other islands, because it's focused around having 1 main and 2 sub-favorite berries. We don't know what this could look like if they were to implement it to other islands, but it seems like, at least for now, they're adding it to Greengrass exclusively. Which is nice, because for late-game players, Greengrass kind of just sucks. It's the island that you go to for events, where Greengrass forces, where it's like a Greengrass-only event. And that's like the only time you go there, because you can't hunt anything at Greengrass. But now there's a reason to potentially go there for this challenging mode, this expert mode. Now, rewards you can get from it. The amount of Drowsy power required to see them increases greatly. So you're going to need a lot more Drowsy power to actually see Pokemon, but you gain more Research XP and Dream Shards and Pokemon Candy that you get for researching each sleep style. So this seriously, potentially, can be a huge help for the stagnation problem that we're having, that some people are perceiving. Because if you get more Dream Shards, you're able to level up your Pokemon more. If you get more candies, you're able to level up your Pokemon more. Now, this does make it harder to level up, or it theoretically makes it harder to level up your legendary Pokemon, because they're already very rare. Taking more Drowsy power for them is going to be like, you're just never going to see them. So maybe if you want to farm legendary candies, go somewhere else. But legendary you're not going to be encountering legendaries all that often anyway, so I wouldn't even consider that, but it is something to mention. But every other Pokemon in the game, it seems like this is going to be the way to go if you want to level them, as long as you can get reliable strength. You'll have an increased chance to encounter shiny Pokemon. That's always fun. And then multiple Expert Mode exclusive weekly missions will be added. Another opportunity to potentially get more resources. Maybe this will be a way to get more... Maybe getting like the Master 18 in Expert Mode might be like a sub-skill seed or something. I'm not saying it will be. That might be a bit insane to give that much for this little mode, but it could also be more candies to help us level up our Pokemon more. It could be other things. There's so many potentials here. And then the kinds of Pokemon that appear on Greengrass in Expert Mode can differ from those that normally appear there. So I was saying earlier that the 3-star styles being added potentially could be for this. But it does look that there might be different kinds of Pokemon that wouldn't normally be there as well. And that also may tie in with Sleep Style, so maybe the 3-star thing actually had nothing to do with this. But it is just interesting to note. And then, how to play it? You have to use an Expert ticket to take on Expert mode, and you can exchange the tickets for Sleep Points. So, notably, I think there's probably going to be one per month, if I had to guess. You could stockpile them, like easy travel tickets. When there are months that you don't want to use it necessarily, you can save it for maybe a 2-week event in a later month, or something like that. But I'm hoping that it's only like 100 sleep points, because I think that'd be very friendly to the free-to-play players. And I think if they make it in the Diamond Shop, and I think it's just nice if even premium players have to be somewhat restricted and choose when they're going to use Expert mode and not. Maybe that's wrong of me to say, but I don't know. I think it'd be, because being limited to just one per month is something that could make you question the value of it. Even if it's a cheap thing, but you only get one per month, you still gotta consider the cost. So I'm hoping that it's only like 100 sleep points, maybe to 500 as like the upper bound. Otherwise, that kind of feels unfriendly to late game free-to-play players that want to take on Expert mode but just need all their resources for biscuits. But we don't know the cost yet. Only time will tell. And they're still in development and might differ for actual game features when implemented. That is something to note. This is months out still, but I think they just wanted to give us some news on it because people have been questioning. More details are coming later in a later update, so please stay tuned. My guess is those later updates are going to be the anniversary event, if I had to predict, just because of the timing that is listed in here. But aside from all that, what Pokemon might see the best improvement because of this new thing? So the first thing that I wanted to discuss was healers, because everybody knows that the cornerstone of a team in this game is the Energy for Everyone healer. So this brings a lot more viability to having multiple healer options within your box. There's a reason to have a Wigglytuff, a Gardevoir, and a Pawmot, all three as potential healers. But I think something very, very interesting is something that I've said for the longest time, ever since doing the Sleepers experiment. Me personally, go check that out if you have no clue what that is that Energizing Cheer, the main skill, oftentimes people say it just sucks, and it does. It doesn't suck in my opinion. After I've actually worked with it for some time, it's a reasonable main skill. The problem is, it's good. Energy for Everyone is overpowered. So being a good skill when there's an overpowered skill that does the exact same thing means that no one's ever going to use it. But now, for some of these Energizing Cheer Pokemon, there's potential. Specifically Leafeon and Slowking, because if you have a week that you're going to be penalized for using an Electric, Psychic, or Fairy-Mon, which is only 3 of the 18 available types, when you only get 3 total potential berries it could be in a week. If you roll Grass type or Water type, Slowking and Leafeon, maybe Slowbro as well, could be your only options. And then you just use them. Like, if you have them. There's a reason to invest these Pokemon before. Never in the game has there ever been a reason to invest a Leafeon, but now there is something to consider, something that it could actually provide to a team. I wouldn't say go out and invest in a Leafeon right away, because there are other evolutions that probably take priority, but it's interesting to consider. Additionally, Slowking, offering both Tails, if it's got the right list. This one doesn't, I just had it here as filler. While also being a Water-type healer, now a bit more interesting and worth consideration if it gets enough buffs to be better than an Energy for Everyone healer that is debuffed. Again, we don't know how the buffs are actually going to play out and how the debuffs are going to play out, but it's something interesting. These Pokemon before were never really considered. Now there might be a reason for them. I think the first big loser of this update, though, is Wobbuffet, because poor Wobbuffet. It's notoriously been one of the worst Pokemon of the game since the start, and despite its other compatriots in the Energizing Cheer field getting a bit more interesting because they're unique in their typing, Wobbuffet shares a typing with Gardevoir. Which, yeah, there's still no reason to invest a Wobbuffet. I just threw it on here to mention how sad it is. But getting past that sadness, another group of Pokemon that I wanted to mention was the Legendaries. I begrudgingly added Darkrai to this list, but the Legendary Beast and Cresselia especially very heavily incentivize building a team around matching type with them. Well, if it is a week that you have that Pokemon's type, or that Legend's type, then just do your best to run a Monotype team, because this mechanic obviously incentivizes a Monotype team, because most likely, especially if they're the main boosted one, these guys are going to go absolutely insane for whatever their boost is. And then the whole team's going to be doing phenomenally well. So it's maybe these guys hold a bit more viability. I still would not suggest to hunt a legendary, because a legendary hunt is practically impossible. It's really only possible during their event weeks, and if you didn't catch a good one during their event weeks, you're probably going to be left hung out to dry for an eternity, because it's so RNG based, and they're so rare, and there's just a lot of problems with that. But if you have them, now's the time to celebrate, because they are built around a Monotype team, and this expert mode mechanic has already had you thinking about Monotype teams, most likely, if you have these Pokemon, and most likely building Pokemon to synergize with them. So they are having a nice little time as well. And then finally, I don't know what I was going to put on the screen. I'll be honest, but if you have more ideas, put them in the comments. Here's the free page that you can put whatever you want on there, because there honestly are, there's potential for a lot of things. A lot of questions with the meta of ingredients. It's going to be very difficult to make teams based around making the top tier ingredients and trying to stick to monotypes, because a lot of times the same types don't have the best type synergy. So being able to find things that work with that, it's going to take a lot of creative team building, a lot of time looking through your box, scraping it, figuring out what types work best for you, because we don't know if we're going to be able to re-roll this. Maybe you can re-roll which berries are picked, but you need to use another expert ticket. Maybe you can re-roll the berries prior to using the expert ticket, but you have to use, like, your travel tickets, and then you can roll the expert tickets, but that feels kind of off. I feel like this is trying to encourage you to collect Pokemon of every single type, which previously it wasn't there. Now, I just remembered what I was going to include on this last thing. I was going to point out Marowak and Dugtrio. Certain types are a bit more rough off right now. The worst one right now is easily ground type. I still would not recommend to hunt a Marowak. Marowak is a terrible berry specialist, and it at this point it feels like they're just refusing to buff him. Why are these three getting a buff and Marowak is not? Marowak is just so horrendously bad in this game. But there's only one other ground type in the entire game right now, and that is Dugtrio. Which Dugtrio is alright. It's not a terrible Pokemon. It's just there's a better alternative in Quaquaval. Well, now Quaquaval and Dugtrio can potentially do different things. So there is something to maybe consider with Dugtrio, but ground types overall going to be worse. Now, that does mean that there's going to be a lot of RNG in what berries are you going to roll? What types are you going to roll to be boosted during your expert mode week? Because realistically, you could get screwed by a bad expert mode week. Because, I mean, there's two types in the game that only have 2 evolutionary lines. Dragon and Ground. That leaves you 4 Pokemon potentials that you could have in Altaria, Dugtrio, Marowak, and Dragonite. And of those 4, I'd say really only like 2 or 3 of them are maybe viable. Altaria might be viable after this. Sure, you do have a third berry type, but if it's something like Steel, then you have Aggron, Mawile, and Steelix to add on to that. Steelix, a very, very rare Pokemon that most people don't have a good one of, and it's a very difficult hunt at best. Aggron, if you can make good use of the sausage or the coffee, go for it, but it's going to be difficult. And Mawile could have some potential. Something very interesting that I noticed with Murkrow is that it does do a very decent job at providing coverage for many different ingredients within one meal if it has the right coverage for a specific meal. So there is something to consider there, but as of right now, the meal that Murkrow does best is Hidden Power Perk Up Stew, having 3 of the 4 ingredients that Murkrow's ingredient drop produces. The 4th ingredient is tomatoes. If you look at Hidden Power Perk Up Stew, Murkrow can produce soybeans, mushrooms, coffee. Now, it's not producing any one of these ingredients enough. I didn't make a Murkrow review video because I just was struggling on time, and my computer is on the fritz right now, so that's a whole different thing. But it can provide coverage for all 3 of these ingredients. It's not going to make them reliably, but it's going to provide at least some coverage. So that with stockpiling and supplementation, you might be able to cover it, as long as you have a tomato farmer. If Mawile's ingredient list is right, then, and it synergizes with, say, Agrons, then there might be something there. So, potentially it could be a buff to ingredient draw Pokemon as well. There's a lot to consider here. A lot of things to think about. Please leave your thoughts in the comments of, like, other ways that this might impact the meta of what Pokemon are viable. Because, honestly, I can't even think about all of them tonight. We've been having a long discussion in the Discord. If you want to talk about those things yourself, then you can join our Discord. Link will be in the description. I've also got the join button. Feel free to click that if you want to support the channel in that way and are financially capable of doing so. I do give a huge thank you to all of my members. It means a lot to me that you guys are wanting to support me like that. And as always, I thank you all for watching, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.